All right, I think we are live. You're upside down, Jack.
This would probably actually help Ike's lag time problems too.
Yeah, I don't know where he is though.
I see his box. I don't
His
see him.
camera's off right now, but I can't tell if we're live. Well, it says live in 2 minutes. Ike,
Hang on, for some reason Zoom has me in a drive mode.
I don't know. Are we on?
I just checked a few seconds ago and I didn't see anything on YouTube.
Because it says now live, but I don't see anything yet.
Oh, it's just going now.
It started. Are
No,
we on?
it was doing something and then it went back to your thumbnail.
Did it show us though?
No, it never got that far. Yeah, it did like a buffer thing on the screen and then it popped back to the thumbnail.
I wonder if I gotta delete this real fast. All right, we're live, it says. Hyder says we're live, but I can't see us on YouTube, so I don't know. We are okay, there we go. We are live. We are Restream didn't work, so we're on Zoom now. So sorry, fellas. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Restream kept booting us out, so we quickly pivoted to get us on Zoom. I don't know where Ike is. Oh, Kevin is not on camera either. Kevin is here, but he's muted and he is his cam audio is off. But hey, what's up, Jack? Got Jack Stewart from Pittsburgh here. So good morning, man. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for sticking around. There's the man of the hour. That's Kevin, self storage. What's up, man?
How's
Can
everybody
you hear
doing
me?
today?
I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. All right. So we're just waiting for Ike, but he's having his own technical difficulties now. But yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully, you found us on this stream. We have to close down the other one. But yeah, we're gonna kind of walk through a deal, the self-storage deal that Kevin has come across, and we're also gonna go over our maybe where we're at for our goals for the year. And now that fourth quarter is here, what are we looking at, or how we're gonna end the year, and maybe how we're doing as far as accomplishing our goals that maybe we set beginning of the year. But yeah, Kevin, let's see. Are you able to share your screen, or you have a deal? You want to talk about it real quick?
I think we can just talk about it. Um, I thought maybe it'd be beneficial for people just to kind of walk through a deal that I bought just over a year ago and kind of run through some high level numbers and then just some quick strategy on what I did to provide to add value to the deal.
You are a little soft. Are you able to bump your volume up a little bit?
Let me see. Nice. What if I scoot closer? Does that help?
Yeah. So how'd you come across this deal?
It was listed. So it was a listed facility. It was listed for I think 850,000. Um, it's in North Carolina, about 13,000 square feet, 145 units. Um, there was very little financials when I bought it. The owner had owned it. She was taking cash and check payments only, basically cash. Um, wasn't claiming anything. So I had very little to go off of, other than just a handwritten rent roll that she had showing who was in the units. They were about 50% occupied. So there was a lot of room to increase occupancy, and the rates were well below market rents. That said, it was not an attractive facility. There were some issues with it. So listed for 850 in April of 23. Not many people were buying at that time. That's when rates started going crazy. Everyone didn't know what was going to happen. But we figured this was a deal. So we ended up getting it under contract, I think, for 785. And then what we did, when we went out there, we found some issues with it. We negotiated that price down to about 700. I think it ended at 705. So we bought it for 705. It was making about $5,000 a month gross when we bought it. And then we came in and just did a quick value add strategy. Told to share that. What we did is we came in, we created a website. We created a Google My Business page. We got set up with a management software. We were using ESS at the time. And that allowed people to move in, move out online, pay with credit cards. We started only taking credit cards and ACH, got rid of all cash and check just for our own accounting purposes. And then we started adding value physically to the facility. So that's more on a managerial level, operational level. But then we came in, we replaced a couple roofs that needed to be replaced. We painted the whole facility. There's some door issues. There was a tree that was overgrown. Took the tree out, fixed the doors. So just kind of simple things like that. And then we slowly started gaining more occupancy at higher rates. So like I said, when we bought it, it was doing around $5,000 a month in April, of July. It was July of 23. And then if we look at our numbers, I'm just looking at my other screen here. We're bringing in from March of 24 to this month, we'll bring in at least 12,000. So somewhere between 12,000 and 13,600 over the last 6 months. So we took it from 5,000 to, call it 12.5 on average, which obviously increased our value as far as what we could sell. So it was pretty simple, just a little value add strategy, and it took about a year, and now we're at kind of a stabilized rental income.
Is this a typical deal that you come across? I mean, is this kind of a standard deal that you find?
Yeah, I mean, we bought it for 705. It's probably worth between 1.2 and 1.35 today. Just based on an 8 cap or a 7 3/4 cap, which is about what it would trade for. And so that's what we try and do. We try and find deals where we can at least make, 35% plus in equity and also have some cash flow along the way.
Sorry, I might have missed it, but did you say what area this was in? Is this in your typical market you're at?
It's in North Carolina. Yes, we have a few in the Southeast. North Carolina is one of the markets that we like.
Cool. Jack, Ike, either one of you looking at self-storage or interested in that? I mean, every time I talk to Kevin, it's like, oh shit, I want to get into self-storage, man.
I actually don't know a whole lot about self-storage. I wouldn't mind learning more about it. But for me at this point, it'd probably be more of a something I would do later in my investment journey.
Oh, actually, before we go on to, I just want to say, everyone, if you haven't seen Ike's interview, actually Jack's too on Zuber's channel, go check it out. They've been on there recently, so go check it out, see what they're doing. Ike's head barely fits in the screen, so he did a better job today, where he's kind of more evened out, where his head is a little more balanced with the camera, I think. But thanks for jumping on
I
finally, Ike.
I was early, but tech issues. So
He had a pumping class yesterday, Kev.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you didn't know, Ike's he's in Kansas. He's a firefighter in Kansas.
yeah,
must
on
have
the
a
self
lot of
storage,
yeah. You must have a lot of
I'd
self-storage in
like to.
Kansas.
Yeah, there's some. Right before I moved back here, I was actually looking in the small town I was at. There was like a 30 unit self storage thing that I found on LoopNet, and I was kind of looking at it. But where I'm at right now, like I I get to use low down payments to buy rental properties, and it's low capital. So yeah, eventually probably do something with self storage or commercial stuff. But for me right now, it's not the best use of my money. Um, the ease of being able to evict people and things like that without having to worry as much about sad stories and all that would be nice. But you know, I'm sure there's pluses and minuses to all of it. So
Yeah, operationally, because we had a little portfolio of single family homes, small multi-units with tenants. And operationally, a storage facility is much easier, just because they
that,
follow the lien laws as opposed to tenant laws.
yeah,
So it's, if you don't pay, you lien the items, you auction them 60 days later, and you get someone else in there.
the
So
toilets breaking down at night.
yeah, no toilets, no tenants, no trash, that whole thing. So
Yeah,
that part of it's nice. And I think I had kind of this limiting belief that you needed a bunch of money to get into self-storage. Like these things cost a whole lot. You gotta, build up this big nest egg. But you can buy cash flowing good self-storage facilities for less than you can buy single family homes in a lot of markets, which is funny. But you can. So it's definitely an option to get into it with little to no money.
yeah.
I kind of like to hear
Would
a
you have
little bit more about
started?
that.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so it just depends on the size of the facility and the market that it's in. So if you're looking at like some big extra space storage in downtown San Francisco, like obviously out of reach, not going to happen. But where we're buying in more tertiary markets, focused on towns that have populations between honestly 1,000 to 15,000, where there is a higher demand for self storage than there is supply. And the new builders aren't coming into these yet, into these lower populated tertiary markets building self storage facilities. So we're finding existing facilities that are just mismanaged, not run properly, mom and pop. The big money's not coming into these smaller markets. And then what we're doing is taking that facility and making it the most sophisticated facility in that unsophisticated market. So we want to have the best presence online. We want to be the only facility where you can move in online, pay online, move out online, rent online. And then obviously having making it look pretty, right? Doing a little bit of the physical value add with new paint, maybe some new doors, things like that.
Are you
So
part of a franchise with that? Like you mentioned extra space. Do you do something like that, or do you have your own? Is it
no,
all your own system?
yeah, it's just our own. And so we'll just buy an existing mom and pop, oftentimes just keep the same name. And then we'll optimize it and try and run it professionally. And by doing so, we can increase rates and we can increase occupancy. And that's where we build that spread that we're making if we were to sell it or just hang on to it long term for cash flow.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have all those maps behind you?
Because I like maps. Those are all either places I've traveled to or lived. So
I didn't know if you were at your flat. That was your dorm, and you had like that was your maps of your area.
no, this is my bachelor pad. I get decorated how I want. So
I was just curious. I mean, I have to wear a Seahawks hat next time because Ike beat me in fantasy football. Freaking Mooney yesterday caught that touchdown.
It's not hard to do.
also because the Bears just suck. So
Whatever, man. We were one score game, but yeah. So Kev, I mean, for self-storage, I mean, like, I guess, what is the biggest unforeseen thing maybe that popped up in any of your deals? Like, this last one seems pretty vanilla for you and it kind of nothing unexpected, but what is kind of the one thing maybe someone getting into self-storage should be aware of?
I mean, I think the biggest uh, threat to self-storage is self-storage. So if you are in an oversupplied market or somebody comes in and builds a massive self-storage facility in a market that doesn't support it, everyone's rates are going to drop, which means the value of your facility is going to drop. So I think that's the biggest thing to be aware of is, are there any new developments in the pipeline? You can go to the county, go to the city and become aware of that before they're built. You would do that in due diligence. And then it's figuring out the demand of the existing storage in that area, and does that meet the supply? So we like to be in markets that are undersupplied, where we know the demand is high, so that we can come in, not have an issue with occupancy, and be able to increase rates. So that would be my number one. My number two would be to make sure that the area supports the rates that you think you can get. So we're focused on tertiary markets. We were big on median income. Can people afford the rates that we think we can get them to? Because if we're running projections at, $80 for a 10 by 10, but the market only ends up paying 60, well, we've lost that deal then. So we got to make sure that people can afford it and that there's not an oversupply. If you can do those two things, it's pretty easy to make money in self-storage.
what's your ratio? Is there like a certain amount of units per 1,000 people, or how does that work for you?
So if you look at the national average, it's about 8 square feet per person of storage in a area. So now how big that area is depends on your town and your demographics. So we typically, I guess, if you just wanted to throw a number at it, we look at a 5-mile radius. If it's a more tertiary market where there's fewer facilities, we might expand that out to 7 or 10 miles, depending on how far people need to drive. Typically, people aren't going to pass 1 or 2 storage facilities to get to yours. So in a heavily populated area, we're going to be looking at a 1 to 3 mile radius. And if we are above 8 square feet per person in that 3 mile radius, in theory, we're oversupplied. If we're below it, we're undersupplied. Now that's just a national average. That number goes out the window when you start looking at the reason why people are renting storage in that area. Is it a vacation area? Is it a beach town? Do they have a big trade show there every year? Like, now you might blow that 8, like the North Carolina facility, I think we're at 22 square feet per person, but it's a destination, it's a growing population. So that's why. But that's a good number to start with.
I talked about like financing earlier. Do you get like traditional financing on self-storage? Like, how do you come up with the capital?
Yeah, so I actually just invested in a deal that my buddy did, and he just raised all the capital. So his facility was $350,000. He raised all $350,000. He's going to take 35% for operating it, managing it, running it, and then 100% of the money will split 65% of the profit. So he's in for $0. But the deal justified that. A lot of people do it that way. They'll take a percentage for finding it, operating it, running it, and then they'll privately fund the capital. The other option is traditional financing, just like you would any other commercial property. Rates somewhere between 6 and 7%. You can also get an SBA loan because it's a business. So that's another advantage that you have as opposed to multifamily or single family. And then obviously your untraditional routes like your hard money loans or things like that.
But what if you're an introvert like Ike? How do you raise the money then? How do you raise funds for the deal?
I always say find the deal and the money will come. I think that's super true. So if you have a good deal, call me, call people. You'll get the money.
There you go.
Hold on. Somebody's talking shit to me in our fantasy football chat.
So on these, you said you were going. The interesting thing you said to me was that you were actually going to smaller markets, which is interesting to me because that's actually mostly where I've been investing is a smaller couple of towns near where I live with about 10,000 people. So when you go into those, do you have like a certain size? It's like too small because I've seen some storage units where there's like 20 units and then others where there's, a couple of hundred. Is there like a certain amount of units where you're like, hey, that's just not going to be worth the time, even if it technically cash flows, it's going to take too much time and too much management to do something, or how does that compute for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. To answer your question, yes, there is a number. Because we're gonna have fixed costs being that we run these things remotely. So we're gonna have management software, we're gonna have our gate, we're gonna have certain fixed costs. It doesn't matter how big the facility is, the cost on certain items stays the same. So you get a facility that's not bringing enough revenue, now your expenses are a massive chunk of that gross revenue. So I don't necessarily look at it as size or units, but I look at it as gross revenue. So I want a facility that is grossing, once I've optimized it, like maybe it's not grossing this today, but I believe I can get it to that, at least $85,000 a year. If it's not going to end up grossing $85,000 a year, my fixed expenses and just my time and effort in running it is not worth it. Now it depends on the market. $85,000 a year might be 200 units and 17,000 square feet in one market. In another market, it might be 40 units and 7,000 square feet, depending on what people are willing to pay and the demand. So I like taking that number first and then working backwards.
All right, Hyder. I can't share comments like Restream, but Hyder says, true, there's more currency out there that needs a place to grow. There are deals to grow currency. That's what I found. So yeah, they said.
And if you find the deal, you make the rules. So that's the number one thing that you can do, especially if you're limited on capital. Be the guy that has the deal, because you determine how that gets put together.
Are you just buying existing units, or are you retrofitting like existing buildings? Because I've seen that, like right now in one of my towns, they've got somebody that bought an old grocery store and they're retrofitting that into self-storage. It's a pretty massive project, but it seems like the location of it's like fantastic for them. So
yeah,
do you do stuff like that, or are you just buying what's already made?
We've done both. So typically we'll buy existing, and ideally we're looking for room for expansion. So we want to buy a facility that has some acreage attached to it, or at least, an area where we can pour some pads for some more buildings, because our goal is to lease that up and then build another phase, assuming the demand supports it. Now that's just traditional outdoor drive up storage. You buy kits, you pour a concrete pad, they go up pretty quick. They're all in for maybe 35 to 40 a foot, depending on your dirt work. But we've also, we have a warehouse. It was an old furniture store in South Carolina that we converted to indoor climate controlled storage.
Yeah.
So that's similar to that, what you're talking about with the grocery store. All indoor, all climate control. And same thing though, you buy kits, they come together, they take your square footage, they try and maximize the number of units you can get in that square footage. You can tweak it based on the size units you want, whatever that market is, demanding at the time. And then you just drop them in. So you can do both.
What do you see
Yeah,
the future for self-storage? Like, is there anything like that can um improve the use of the space, or like what is the technology coming down the road for self-storage?
Yeah, there's so much money that got thrown at self-storage over the last 4 years as it became more mainstream and people realized that it wasn't taking the hit during kind of the recession as some of these other assets were. Um, so there's tech that is being developed every day for self-storage. There's where you can unlock the unit with your phone, right? They're like smart locks. There's so many things that you can do. Now, we're not getting to that level because that's for people competing in San Francisco and LA and Chicago. Um, we don't have to do that in the small towns yet. Now you'll notice that like the REITs, the public stores, the Extra Space, some of these larger regional players, they are starting to move into the secondary markets and they're encroaching on the tertiary markets, which is, it's going to make it a little tougher to buy in some of these markets, but it's also going to increase the value of what we already own. So the big players are coming down this way because they've oversaturated a lot of these other larger markets. And with that, they're going to bring their tech with them. But they still have to justify the cost in some of these smaller markets. So for us, it's like, hey, let's just run this like a business. Let's gate it if we can. Let's give everyone their own gate code. Let's get everybody to pay online, do everything online. And just by doing that, running it like a business, like actually following through with overlocking units, leaning units, auctioning units, having the best customer service, picking up the phone when people call. Just by doing that in these small markets right now, we are the top dog in the market. So I like that.
What about like, do you guys ever think about using like mailbox? Everybody's doing the mailbox spaces now, like kind of operating mailboxes.
Oh, like a UPS store might do, like
Yeah.
your post box.
You think that would be profitable to kind of put that on the facility and people can use it as like a business address and kind of a mailbox type of place?
Yeah, I love those mailbox stores. I haven't thought about combining it with a storage facility, but it's an interesting idea. I think there's going to be, and I think there already is a big demand for kind of this hybrid self-storage warehouse. Like I have a business, I need more than a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, but I don't need a 10,000 square foot warehouse. I need like 1,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet. Maybe it's got a bathroom in it. But I can run a business out of it. I can keep inventory there, kind of this flex space. I think there's definitely opportunity in that industrial asset class. And I think, having mail and things like that delivered to the, kind of those spaces where people are actually working out of, I think would be a great idea.
Yeah. So why don't you go over the numbers again real quick and kind of maybe Jack and Ike can kind of figure out what they would do next, maybe what their plan for this facility might be.
Yeah. So we bought it for 705. We're into it for, I'd have to look exactly, but somewhere around 760. We've been doing about 12,500 a month on average for the last 6 months. Now that fluctuates based on when people pay, if we have liens or auctions, but it's always been between 12,000 and like 13,500 for the last 6 months. So if you take the average, call it 12.5. Our expenses are right around 31% of that gross. So if I've got to pull out a calculator, if we're at 12.5 and our expenses are at 31%, we're at $8,600 a month, if I did it right. Industry standard is about 35% expenses. So if you were, to exit, people might assume a 35% expense ratio, even though we're doing it at 31%. So then the question becomes, well, what do you do now? Do you hold this thing? It's, profiting about 100K a year minus debt. Or do you sell it because now it's stabilized and all the juice is kind of already squeezed out of it, because the value add has been done. So now it's a stabilized asset. And what is someone willing to pay for a stabilized asset that's grossing, $12,500 a month, or, if you look at the net, about $100,000 a year. And that's kind of where we're at with that one.
So what are your options right now?
What
what's on
is
the
someone-
table for you?
What's that? What did you say?
No, I was saying, what is someone willing to pay for that?
Yeah, so if you look at residential real estate, like right now, you're probably not gonna beat like a 6 cap in most markets. Maybe 6.5, maybe you push it to 7. If you're just looking at a cash purchase, right? Now on storage, I would say conservatively, I would run this at an 8 cap. But I think based on where this is in the market, and it's a top 10 growing county in the United States, we're probably going to get more of like a 7.5 to maybe 7.75 cap on the exit. So if you want to just take your 100,000 net profit, out of somewhere between a 7.5 cap and an 8 cap, I think that's where it trades.
So what's on the table for you right now? What are you considering doing? And maybe Jack and Ike can throw what they would probably do.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the table for me is do I hold it and let it cash flow? And now I'm kind of letting the market dictate what it's worth, because if cap rates expand, it's worth less. If cap rates go down, it's worth more, but there's not much more value that I can add. So now I'm just kind of at the whim of the market, but at least I'm getting, the 100K cash flow. Or do I say, hey, I've extracted the value. I took it from 705,000 into it for 760, and now it's worth between 1.2 and 1.35. And do I sell it and then go redeploy that elsewhere into something where I can actually add value, as opposed to kind of being at the whim of the market? I guess that's the crossroads that I'm at now.
Is refinancing it at that cap rate and pulling out some cash, like, is that an option when you're dealing with commercial things like this, or is that something that bankers aren't doing?
No, we could do that. So we could refinance and pull out all the cash that we have in it. And then obviously our cash flow would decrease. But we'd still be profitable with some buffer room. So that's a good point. That would be the third option. If we were to hold it, that's probably what we would do.
Yeah.
Is this your
I mean,
only one, or do you have other storage units?
We have other ones as well. So we've got 5. We're in contract on 8 more. So we have other ones to spend time on. Although the big time suck is in the beginning, when you're doing all the value add and doing this. And now that I'll call it stabilized, I maybe spend 5 hours a month for 100K profit. Like, there's just not much to do.
Are all of these remote, or do you have employees sitting at any of these?
No, we only do the remote model. It just makes it way easier.
Okay.
I don't have
Yeah.
employees. We do have I call them a boots on the ground. And so they're just a 1099 contractor at each facility. And they come by and they check the facility 3 times a month, and they do lock audits for us. So they'll walk around and say, hey, this unit's locked. And then I can check the management software and say, well, it's not supposed to be locked, and then figure out, oh, someone moved into the wrong unit, or, Someone just moved into
Yeah.
it, they shouldn't have, right? So they do things like that for us, but they're not employees. It's just maybe 5 to 7 hours a month they spend at the facility.
That'd probably be a kind of nice little gig.
Yeah.
Say what's up to KC, Buzztune, Craig, Lars. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for finding us. We had a little technical difficulties this morning. Restream kept kicking me off, so we pivoted real quick, started up a Zoom one, and we're live. So thanks for finding us. Buzztune's actually up early today. This is early for him in Hawaii. But yeah, Kev. So what are you gonna do then? I mean, I already know. I think so. Jack and Ike were kind of playing around with the numbers. But so, what's your plans for this property?
Well, I think before I was going to hold it. That was kind of my idea initially. But now that we're in contract on 8 others, one, I could use some of these funds, depending on when it sells, but I could always repay myself. And then 2, just to kind of free up it's not taking a lot of bandwidth, but it's still something. So free up a little bandwidth. My thought is to list this one and sell it. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. I've talked to some brokers, talked to 3 national brokers who kind of gave me a broker opinion of the value, which is right kind of where I mentioned it. So we'll see if the market's actually willing to pay that. If not, then I'll hold it. And I'm not, I'm in a good position where I don't necessarily have to sell it.
Esther's here. So morning, Esther. She says, "Where is your storage units?"
North Carolina, just outside Wilmington.
Didn't they have this big flood the other day?
I don't know. Maybe.
I saw someone post like, oh, like overnight they had like 18 inches of rain or something, or like just this big downpour.
I think the coast did. I think I saw something about that.
Yeah. Someone is trying to make like, is it the biggest news of the year, climate change, and see all these things? And
yeah.
All right. But all right, well, keep us posted, man.
Let's know how it goes.
Yeah.
I got a couple more questions on that. If you sell that, are you paying taxes on that, or do you just 1031 it into one of the other ones you're looking at?
If the timing worked out, I would 1031 it. If this thing sold before this other contract, and so if it sells before I'm set to close on these new group of facilities, then I would 1031 it. If not, I'm probably going to be stuck paying taxes because I want to focus on these 8 facilities, and I'm probably not going to be buying another investment property in the next 60 days that I would need to 1031 it. The other option is that I would consider carrying paper on it and seller financing it. So if somebody did want to buy it, I can kick the tax can down the road a little bit, make some and seller finance it. So we'll see where we end up.
The hider says, seems like duration need to be mathed. What's the sales premium worth, and how long would you have to hold it to make that? Is the time worth it? Need the cash to redeploy, etc. So yeah, it's always about running your numbers and just, I think the biggest thing we always talk about too is just kind of always knowing your exit strategies and what your goals are, right? And I'm following X as we're talking, but Lance Lambert says the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate today is 6.11, ties the 52-week low. And tomorrow they're supposed to announce or if they're going to have rate cuts, so we'll see what happens. Things could get interesting though. So
how long, you might have said this before I hopped on, but how long did it take you to stabilize that one?
We bought it in July of 23.
Okay.
And we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the last 7 months it will have made on average 12,500. So from July 23 to March of 24 was our value add, slowly increasing revenue up until March, and then starting in March till now, we're stabilized at 12,500 on average.
Nice. That's not a super long stabilization, then, I don't think.
No, we projected it was going to be longer. We pretty much beat our projections we cut them in half. we
Nice.
didn't realize the demand that was there. We had projected less. So yeah, this one worked out well. But yeah, we had thought it'd probably be a 2-year process, and we're at a year.
Nice.
Now,
Well,
how far away with or storage units will you invest away from yourself?
Well, I'm in California, so about as far as I can get is North Carolina. So we have South Carolina, we have Kentucky, Texas, Mississippi. So yeah, with the remote management system, there's really not a need. We have a call center that answers all the phone calls for us, so that they handle all that. Most people do whatever they have to do online. My involvement is more so when something breaks down, like the gate doesn't open or something like that. Then I have to get a contractor out there. Something breaks, things a flood, whatever it might be. So yeah, with my personality, it's better off I invest far away, or else I would be there all the time trying to fix stuff I shouldn't be fixing.
we retired soon, man. Like, how come you? So what was the pumping class for yesterday?
I'm just at 2 years now, so that's where they send us through driving school at my department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man.
Got to do all the hydraulics and formulas and hooking everything up and do all that sort of stuff. So,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Pump 150, bake 350. You're good.
I told you in the text we use smooth bores. If I
I know.
pump 150, they ain't gonna be happy.
Yeah, you just need your base and then go from there. Cool. Yeah, I think it's a good time to maybe pivot then. So we're also going to talk about goals. Fourth quarter goals. Fourth quarter is starting. Maybe what goals we had for the year. Are we following up on that, or how we doing, or meeting those, and how we're going to try and finish up the rest of the year. So, Jack, you've been kind of quiet, so maybe you can talk about what your goals were this year and what you got going on the fourth quarter, maybe.
Yeah, so my goals for the rest of this year is to there's someone looking into doing possibly a private loan with me. They're interested, so I'm holding off on doing the renovations because that's what they wanted to invest in. So I if they decide to go through with it, I'm going to go ahead, take the money, dump it into that double duplex I've been working on. And instead of trying to have that last unit up and going by March, you know, sometime before March, I'll have the whole thing ready to go. And at that point, I might consider refinancing the whole place. And then I'm going to start thinking more seriously on, first thing is to buy another property. And after that, I'm either going to start looking into another place because the one thing I learned about this place, even though I'm living in there, is it's very inconvenient to be there. So my goal is to honestly try to get out of there as fast as I can. So I'm actually looking at something that's in between where I work and where Cynthia lives in Pittsburgh because it's I thought 20 minutes from further north from where I work didn't seem that bad, but I could see already it's for me it's not going to really work out that well. So I kind of want to just remodel what needs to be done, get my money back out of it, and then move on to something else and try to buy like a ADU or something I can break even on that's halfway between where Cynthia lives and where I work.
Quickly, Esther has a question for you, Kev. She said, 1250 a month the cash flow from one storage complex. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Maybe she's thinking of the gross, which is 12,500 per month.
Yeah, so that from one storage complex.
One storage facility. Yeah. 13,000 square feet.
You got that, Esther? One storage facility, 13,000 square foot is around 1250 a month gross.
12,500.
Yeah, 12,500 gross.
Cool.
Yeah, so Jack, so how's everything going for the year so far though? Are you meeting kind of what you had planned, or are you kind of pivoting now, waiting on this possible loan, I guess, or private investor?
I wouldn't say I stopped working or anything like that. Like I'm still working, but I kind of just slowed down because if he does decide to pull the trigger, obviously, like this is the renovation project that he kind of wanted to invest in. So I'm kind of just leaving it a little bit slow or going at it a little bit slower than I normally would. That way I can just, if he decides to go with it, put his funds towards it and then pay him off with some interest at the refinance point. But yeah, I
Right.
wouldn't say I stopped. I just kind of slowed down. And
How
it
did
kind of
this
goes back.
person find you? How
Or
did
would
this
you say
investor find you?
Um, it's someone I work with actually.
And did they
So
know
would
you
he
were
have
always investing, or is it kind of because recently you've been on social media more talking about it? Is that how they kind of reached out to you?
He knew I invested for a long time. He was asking if I had any projects going on. I told him a little bit about what's going on with the one I'm currently working on, and he was asking if I would be interested in doing if I would be interested in like a loan for the construction side of things. And I said, yeah. I get kind of gave him the numbers and stuff, and the interest rate that he wants to charge isn't that bad. So I was thinking about doing something like that just to keep my cash in the bank and stuff.
what's the interest rate you're seeing out there for something like that on a construction loan?
He just wants 5%. Like he just wants me to match or to match a high yield savings account.
That's it.
That's it.
I would take all the money he has.
I'd do that. Yep. As long as you can pay it back.
Yeah, well that's the thing. It's like this place from where it's at now to where it should refi, it it's gonna cash flow and I can pay him back very easily. Because even when I bought it, I'm sitting on 50K worth of equity.
Yeah.
So
We have a little fund that we manage in it, and it's just for fix and flippers, bridge loans, just a hard money fund, and we keep the money working. We pulled some people's money together, and then we make the loans, but we're at typically 10, 11, 12% plus 1 to 3 points on anything we loan. So 5% is it's a great rate, and as long as it's a win-win, it sounds like it's a win-win for him, then I would go for that.
yeah, he just wants to get a little bit extra money from what he would be getting from his normal bank and stuff.
What about you, Ike? Any private investors working with you now? What's your goals?
No, no, not currently. I mean, I kind of like setting goals, things like that. So I've got a poster up elsewhere in my house with everything, and I'm supposed to get one more property this year. I don't think I will. I still got a house that I'm renovating, and right now I'm just kind of a little bit strung out on cash. So I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself and make smart decisions. So right now it's just I've got a small house, try to get that finished and rent it out before winter hits. But I think and then be ready to buy something next winter or spring. So I feel like there's more deals in the winter. So I'm not super unhappy about that, but at the same time, I was hoping to get one more before the end of the year, and it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. So
Well, I noticed there's three firefighters here, and two of us are bald, and one invests in self-storage. So maybe self-storage is a lot less stressful than single-family homes. So I might have to think about this. Like,
I mean, the first sign of balding is you wear a cap everywhere. So
But yeah, hey, you should show us one of your goal or vision boards or goals one time. You have it in your room, you said, or what?
Not in this room, but yeah, I could do that. So it's not like a big vision board. I just got when I started investing, I wrote down a 5 year plan, and at 5 years, there's a certain amount of units I want to be at that would allow me to either go into work or say, you know, and move on. So I like my job. I like what I do. So I doubt that'll happen. But at the same time, getting the freedom to do that. So I'm just trying to keep on that track and keep pushing forward. So
Well, the more you hang around me, your feelings might change because Kev's coming around a little bit.
I'm in your same camp. I still love the job, love driving the fire engine, love going to calls. But are you married?
Nope.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I no.
So that changes things. Not
Yeah.
necessarily but with kids, right? We have two kiddos, and that when you're gone we work 2 days on, 4 days off. Maybe you have a similar schedule. So I'm gone for 48 hours. If I get forced, I'm gone for 72 hours, which seems to happen frequently now. So being away from the kids for that long is definitely different. But yeah,
Yeah.
being a single fireman, I never got to have that, but sounds like it's fun.
It's not a bad life, but
Is that guy still commuting from Hawaii to your guys' department?
Yeah, he's got another.
How much
He's
more
gonna
time
do
does
it
he
till he
have?
retires. He's got another year left.
Yeah, there's a guy that commutes.
that happens a lot with the 4896.
Yeah, and there's people like you'll work a trade, so you'll work a 96, but then you'll have 10 days off. So you can kind of manipulate. You're not supposed to, but you can kind of manipulate your schedule a little bit to stack your shifts. But no matter how you look at it, you're still commuting. I mean, we had a lot of people moved to Idaho during the pandemic.
Yeah.
People moved to Texas, flew in. I think they've all since gotten hired at Texas departments, but yeah, it's interesting.
What department are you on?
We're in the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento area, so I even have a 2.5 hour drive to get to work.
Okay. Because you guys use the wooden ladders, don't you? Is that what you're famous for?
San Francisco does, but we don't.
That's how you. Okay.
Yeah, San Francisco uses the wooden ladders. Those things are
Those
heavy.
things are heavy, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's a tradition thing. It's definitely not a practicality thing. And they got to maintain it. You got to linseed oil, and then just anyway.
Yeah. So no, I use goals to kind of like try to push me forward, but at the same time, I'm having to be careful that I don't let them push me into a bad deal or a poor deal, because there's opportunities out there, and I got to be a little bit more patient than I have been with some of my stuff.
I forgot. Was one of your goals being in Vegas for the overhead event? I forgot.
I mean, that'd be a 2025 goal. So
Well, yeah, but you could buy your ticket in 2024.
Possibly.
I forget what you said.
Well,
Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'm gonna try, but we'll see what happens. Right now it's gonna be like either, yeah, I would like to be there and like to be for around that time, like be there a day or so early and a day or so after, because I think that'd be better than just the conference itself. But we'll see what happens. So
my little unsolicited advice on goals is I used to do like I want X number of facilities or X number of houses or X number of units, whatever it was, right? I'd measure it by that.
Yeah.
But that never actually, it didn't get me to the goal of what's the real goal behind that? Is it a certain amount of money coming in each year? Is it equity creation? Is it, I want a paid off house, whatever it is, right? So then I shifted my goals to the finance side of things, and then reverse engineered it for however many units that might take to get there, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm not focused on, well, I need another facility, because a facility could bring in $5,000 a month. It could bring in $100,000 a month, right? So once I changed it to, I want X amount of cash flow, then I could go out and find deals that supported that cash flow goal. And that kind of helped my mind shift, because before I was just trying to acquire, but I'm like, I'm not actually meeting that cash flow goal, even though I had the number of units I wanted. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mikey,
That'd be like Dion's.
No, go.
I was just saying Dion's been kind of a big promoter of that, of like, it doesn't matter how many units you have, it matters how much cash flow you're getting at the
Yeah.
end of the
If your
day.
goal is 100K, you have more units
So
versus 100K.
my goal,
Damn,
right?
Kansas
My
internet.
goal is like kind of a combination of that. So
Well, you got the Dion look going perfect right now. You got it's kind of his shirt he wears, the maps behind you. Now I'm figuring out. You seriously got the Dion look going on. But BuzzTune has a great question. He says, "Is the firefighter benefits changing in other states for the newer guys?" Kev says, "Yeah." How
As of
about you, Ike?
2013, we changed to PEPRA in California. So instead of being able to retire at 50 with getting 3% of your salary every year you worked. So if you worked 30 years times 3%, you'd get 90% of your salary, whatever it was at that age of 50 if you retired. Now it's 2.7% per year at 57. So now you have to work until you're 57, and every year you work, you only get 2.7% of your salary as opposed to 3%, which is a big difference. So that happened in 2013.
So it's based on your age, not time of service.
It's strictly based on age, and then time of service gets factored in because that time gets multiplied by now 2.7%. So
Okay.
if you work for 30 years instead of 30 years times 3%, it's 30 years times 2.7%, but you can't retire until you're 57. You could retire earlier, but you can't collect until you're 57, put it that way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does your guys' overtime count towards retirement?
And neither does incentive pay. So like if you're bilingual, you get like, I think 1.5% pay extra. They have like little incentives, right? Like bachelor's degree, you get a little bit of incentive, stuff like that. That is not that we call it purgeable. It's not does not count towards our retirement, only your base salary.
Huh? Yeah, my overtime still counts. The newer guys, it doesn't count. It doesn't count towards their retirement. So yeah, for them, they definitely got to get promoted quicker.
So is it that last year you're just working as much as you can to try and get it, or is there an average over a certain amount of years?
Well, ours is, so the one I'm on is high three. So my high 3 years salaries, the
Okay.
average. The new guys though is high five, and the overtime doesn't count. So even more so, yeah, they gotta, different average. Plus they gotta try to get promoted quicker, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of guys in my spot, they would, towards the ending of their career, especially when they're at the higher rate, they'll start pounding the overtime as much as possible.
Yeah, they probably get mad at any new guys picking it up in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a unsung, kind of, unwritten. Usually the older guys are going to get the overtime because they're trying to pad their retirement.
Yeah.
So the younger guys kind of, but yeah, there's so much overtime right now.
It's definitely not what it used to be. And, with our system, I wouldn't be surprised if it changes again for the worse. Or if there's even money left in the coffers 30, 40, 50 years from now. So that's why I think it's so important to have an alternative investment retirement strategy, whether that's doesn't have to be real estate, could be index funds, could be something, right? Just investing outside of your traditional retirement that your work provides, especially when it's a pension system. It's important.
Yeah, Zuber
Yeah.
talked about it today on his daily financial, but I saw this and I had it on X earlier, but they said the new middle class retirement plan is work till you're 75. So like there's a new study that finds half of middle class workers plan on working past 65, right? So it's kind of in the rat race, right? If you're not doing something else and you're following the plan that they're telling you you're supposed to follow, you're gonna probably keep working, or you're gonna have to think about going back to work after retirement. So So definitely, I think that's why we're always trying to tell people have alternatives or have other options. But yeah, Kev, like you're talking about, trying to figure out, reverse engineer what your goals, your vision is. Actually, I listened to Coach Carson talk to one of his mentors recently, and they're talking about kind of, what their portfolio, earlier in their careers, earlier in their journey, how they looked at it. And I guess Coach Carson he was just going hard, and like you're saying, trying to acquire properties and do all these things. And then at one point, he sat down with his partner, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? This like, what is our dream life look like, or what does it consist of?" And he kind of sat down, and he's like, "I want to travel, play basketball, have time." And he realized like a lot of it wasn't really related to money. It was related to having time. And that's when he started getting into that kind of small and mighty investor mindset, where it was like, it's not the amount of properties I have, it's not like this, you know unrealistic amount of cash flow coming in. It's, I need just a certain amount to live this lifestyle that I want. And it's more not presenting these headaches of having this huge portfolio, and it's more consolidating things. So I do have all this time to do what my dream life looks like. And that's kind of where that whole small and mighty investor mindset came from. And I think that's what a lot of people are starting to realize, right? You've seen a lot of these social media people like Grant Cardone and Batch going in, and Pace Morby talking about like, don't be me. You don't want to be me. You don't want 1,000 doors, or you don't want all these unrealistic portfolio sites. All you need is 4 or 5 paid off rentals, and you're like, set for life kind of thing. So I think that's the important thing, is realizing kind of where you're at in your journey. Of course, in the beginning, yeah, you want to try and scale and you want to try and acquire things, but at some point, consolidating or getting rid of headache, I guess, makes it a lot easier to manage. So
I saw an interesting Twitter post from guy. He's in the data group with me, Mike Higgins. He's got a bunch of followers on Twitter. He does a lot of single family stuff. But his thing was basically, if you think about it, you could buy one house a year for 10 years and put them all on 10-year mortgages. And if you can support, if you can support paying the mortgage with the cash flow from that property, or maybe, in addition, add some of your own funds from a W-2 you're working, in 10 years, you'll just be able to refinance one house every year and live off that. And it just kind of put things in perspective. Like, it doesn't have to be this huge thing where you're acquiring all these different units and properties and facilities and whatnot every single year. It's like, if you can just do one a year for 10 years, in 10 years, do you have the potential to be set up to refinance a house every year and live off that?
I want to say hi, Nikki. Thanks for stopping by. I told her this group of firefighters are a little more well behaved. Last time she tuned into one of the lives and got kind of out of control with Aaron. I'm trying to get Aaron back on, but he's super busy right now. He's funny. I don't know if Kev, you heard of the First Responder Financial Freedom guys? So they have a podcast, but they're on Facebook. But uh, oh, and that's the guy Mike. He does self storage also. I was trying to get us all on at one time, but everyone's kind of busy. But thanks, Nikki. And then yeah, Hugo says 75. No thanks. Even if you only buy one property and only invest up to the match in 401k starting at 35, you should be okay. And then they start what says these days you need a 3, 4, or 5-legged stool. Sources of cash flow versus the average of just Social Security. Yeah, I think a lot of people are seeing that and realizing that you got to have other options out there and multiple streams of income.
Well, especially for a lot of people that don't have that aren't going to get a pension. Like I know you three are, with a firefighter and stuff, but like for blue collar workers, for example, a lot of them don't have a pension. Like I'm not going to have a pension. All I have is the 401k, and you're just watching year after year it, staying about the same or slightly going up or going down even. It gets to the point where it's just like you have to have something else because a 401k is not going to cut it. Like you have to have something else. That's kind of why, like for me personally, like my 5 to 10 year goal is to get my real estate license, sell some properties on the side, hopefully do about 4 or 5 flips a year, just because. And I'm not even talking about doing house flips because for the money. It's just it's something I enjoy doing, like like redoing the house and painting and all that kind of stuff. That's something I enjoy doing. So it's not really immensely, work for me. Then I'll have the rental portfolio, and I'd like to have like another business or two, something like storage units. That's why I was kind of quiet in the first half of this because I'm kind of just trying to absorb everything that Kevin was saying. I think Ike was asking fantastic questions. A lot of times he was beating me to the questions I wanted to ask, so I just kind of stayed quiet for the most part. And then I would probably would fire up the landscaping business again, just because I've ran one in the past. I know how those operate and stuff, and just use those same guys to help with the remodeling of the places during the winter and cold months or the slow times, and then do the drive-bys like Kevin was saying at the storage units. If possible, if it's all in the same area. I know as Kevin was talking, I was using Google Maps, and most of the area I'm looking in, it's just flooded. Kevin, you're saying like 5 mile radius.
Yep.
Like I was looking at some of the area where I invest in rental properties and stuff, and for a 5 mile radius, there's like 7 storage units on average. I was calculating.
Yeah. And it depends on the population. Like that might be undersupplied. And it depends on the size of those storage facilities. And then you also look at, well, how well are they being run? Like, could you come in maybe a potentially slightly oversupplied market, but run the storage facility better than any of the other 7
Yeah,
and be able to drive customers to your facility, even at higher prices? And I know that's true because I've done it.
and
But
that's the thing. The storage unit would actually work with the other businesses too, because that way, instead of me having to buy a piece of property and stick in a warehouse to store all this stuff, I could literally just store the equipment, the supplies, and all that kind of stuff in the storage unit. Just have a certain section blocked off for my contractors and stuff.
yeah, we bought a facility where the owner had they had another business, and they were occupying like 30% of the facility themselves.
Oh
And
wow.
the other 70% was just basically they were getting storage for free is how it worked out.
Yeah.
Because the other people were paying for their storage, kind of like house hacking, but with storage. So if you do have a business that you do need a lot of space, if it's an inventory business, if it's a supply business, it can be super beneficial. And then you also own the asset and you're, paying down that asset as well. So that's definitely an option.
All right, Kev. Well, I know you got to bounce soon. So before you go, I put your X channel or X handle in the chat so people can reach out to you. Are you going to come out with a course on helping people get started in self-storage anytime soon, or what's the plans, or can people reach out to you?
Yeah, reach out to me. I'm happy to just help individually. I'm wary of the courses. I just, there's some people that do it right, but I think it can be gimmicky. So I don't know that I have plans to do that, but I love helping just one-on-one. I love helping people individually. So if people have questions, feel free to send me a message on Twitter. We can connect on the phone after that. Happy to help in any way I can. That was kind of my whole reason for doing Twitter. I don't have any other social media, was just to see if I could just bring value to people in their journeys. So happy to do that.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for doing this, and we'll get you back on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
All right, man. Thanks, Kev.
Take care.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, you too. See ya.
Yeah.
Got about 17 years self-employed, no socialized securities or 401k. REI is a must for me. Yeah, I think that kind of, like you were talking about, Jack, me, Kevin, we are kind of fortunate. We do have a pension, right? So we do have these other income sources hopefully coming in. So other people have to kind of think outside the box, I guess, or have other strategies. So real estate is one that I think a lot of people, you can, like you said, you can have, 3% down, 5% down, different ways to get into real estate. So that's one avenue, people should look at. But I thought you were going to do OnlyFans, Jack. I thought that was the plan for your post in school asking about side hustles and that.
Yeah, you can pay me to put clothes back on.
Could be
But,
lucrative.
but you actually did get me thinking about something just now. If if like most people that don't have a pension and stuff, and you're just starting out and you're thinking about doing investing and other stuff, it, I think it'd be beneficial to think about doing something that would help you move forward, like something. I don't want to say a trade just because that's oversaid, but like something that you can enjoy that you can build up into, like it being a wood shop, for example. Like I used to, when I had more space and stuff, used to run a wood shop and make like little projects and stuff. And I used to do cabinets, over at my buddy's wood shop. But something that will help you in the future to, if you're going to do a real estate route, that you can then use what you learned into that. We're running a business even, like a little landscaping business. I'm just saying it because that's what I've done.
Yeah, totally agree. So you funny you mentioned I was talking about that guy Aaron earlier, firefighter. Um, funny guy, but he does wood stuff, woodworking stuff, on the side, and I think that's going to be something when when he retires, he's going to just be doing that because it's like a passion thing. But he makes a lot of like retirement plats and things like that for retirees. So yeah, and so I actually at my station we just had someone retire a couple weeks ago, and I kept pushing him to try and start something, before he actually retired, because like once you retire, you just it's going to be hard. It's hard to start something, right? You're kind of just comfortable, and it's hard to really get that motivation. But when you're doing it before you actually retire, kind of you get in this kind of hustle and momentum, and then so hopefully by the time you retire, it's kind of off and running slightly, or so it kind of has some momentum behind it. And that's kind of why I think you're starting the YouTube channel. I'm starting the YouTube channel, trying to get all of this kind of moving, before we actually maybe walk away from our W-2. So Ike, get out there, start your channel, but Ike's been on social media a lot more, so which is good. I think I see him posting a lot more and doing more things, and so it's a start, right? I think that's the same thing. We're all just trying to get out of our comfort zone and put ourselves out there. Yeah, Hider. Oops, 401 chaos. Yeah, so that's what other people like to call it, the 401 chaos. And yeah, I'm not a big retirement account person, and it's better than doing nothing, but definitely there's a lot better alternatives out there. Yeah, anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap things up? Anyone out there that's still watching, thanks for finding us, sticking around. We had a lot of technical difficulties in the beginning. Restream kept kicking us off, so we quickly pivoted to Zoom, and it's hey, people tuned in, so that's the main thing, right?
I think it's some good stuff to talk about. That self storage is definitely interesting. I'm surprised he was doing it in smaller markets like that. So I'll probably look into that a little bit more. But I mean, right now where I'm at, I feel like I got a good strategy with what I've got on the real estate with housing. So trying not to get too distracted because there's a lot of shiny objects out there, and I don't want to end up with a little bit here and a little bit there and never get some depth. So
It kind of got me thinking more along the lines of, because I know like once I got like financial independence number for me and Cynthia, that I was looking at trying to buy, refinance everything and doing like a 50-plex or something, just and just absolutely crush it with cash flow. But I kind of had a pivot in mindset during this call where I'm honestly thinking more about doing the same exact thing, but then buying a storage unit instead and optimizing it from there. Because I'm sure a place that's like, between 10 and 50 units is going to be a lot more headache, a lot more people. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, as I was listening to Kevin, that might be the optimal pivot for me just because there isn't anyone to talk to for the most part. And
yeah,
if you maximize it like how he is, what are you getting? A couple phone calls a month?
Yeah. Like I said, every time I talk to Kev, it's like, oh man, I want to get into self storage. But yeah, it's probably something I'll dabble in at some point. Maybe it seems interesting enough, but it's one of like you're saying, right? Kind of focus on what you're doing first, and then maybe that's something you can test the waters in, right? And once you kind of hit your goals, maybe, and see how it is. But yeah, definitely single family homes, or small multis, kind of my space. Simple, a lot of different uh, entry points, a lot of different exit strategies. So
Yeah.
yeah. Plus, I'm not as much as maybe on social media and things like that. You know, I don't really want to do partnerships, and I don't want to do really work with anyone else. I think that's just I don't want the headaches that may come along with it. Even though it's a way to scale, uh, it's also I don't really want to deal with other people. I think.
All right, I'm gonna have to run. But thanks for talking.
All right, man. Thanks for doing
It's good
this.
meeting you.
Yeah, good meeting you, Jack, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, man, you gotta change because you seriously look like Dion. You look like a younger Dion. You got the same setup and everything, man. Nothing wrong with that, but
Well, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. We'll see what he thinks.
all right, man. Thanks. Hey, Steven's here,
All right,
man. Thanks, Steven. All right,
talk to you later,
everyone.
man.
All right, Jack, it's just you and me, man. Any final words before I wrap things up, man?
I think I'm good for the most part. I think I'm just gonna stick to my lane. But like I said, my lane for right now. I'm gonna do a pivot later. But there's definitely a lot to think about.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just wrap things up. I didn't really talk about too much of my goals and fourth quarter, but
But
right
why don't you go
now
ahead
I
and talk
am.
about it?
No, I'm just gonna wrap it up. Yeah, real quick. I mean, pretty much, I am finally pulling the trigger. Gonna rent my primary home out. One thing I do want to say is I realize how much shit I have and how much shit I wasted money on, and kind of realize like, man, maybe you don't think you're keeping up with the Joneses, but when you start looking at stuff that you have, you're like, do I really need this? Of course, I bought way too much gym equipment, so that's the pain in the ass trying to figure out where I'm going to put all that stuff. So, but yeah, cleaning out my house, moving stuff to my parents' house, um, gonna just make it easier because I'm hardly at home anyways whether I'm at the firehouse or just doing work. So it's gonna just be easier and save a lot of money. And but yeah, I definitely realize how much money I wasted too when I look at all the stuff I'm throwing away and tossing out. And but so yeah, just trying to finish that up. Put in my papers for a HELOC and see how that turns out. And yeah, we'll just go from there pretty much. I don't know if I'm going to hit the 1,000 subscriber by the ORAD event, but we'll see. It's picking up, but that was kind of my biggest goal to get to the 1,000 by that next event. So we'll see. I'm at about 16, I think. So we'll see if I make it there.
I'm at currently at 21. My personal goal was before the ORAD event to try and be close to 40.
Oh, you'll be there, man. Well, let's put your channel in before I wrap things up. So anyone out there that hasn't subscribed to Jack's YouTube channel, I put in the comments earlier, but go give him a subscribe so he can get to his 40 subscribers by the ORAD event. Um, Mark needs his own. Yeah, I do need a storage unit, man. Shit, I got so much shit. There's guys coming by my house just picking up stuff on the sidewalk. But like I said, man, you realize how much stuff you don't need after a while, and you realize like, why did I buy this? So it was good. It was a good eye opener for me too. Just realizing kind of how, like I said, maybe you don't think you have a lot of stuff, but you actually do. So also being very fortunate realizing that you do have a lot of stuff. So, but a lot of wasted money. So yeah, hopefully by next time, I gotta figure out too what I'm gonna do with the lives now that I've gotta move it. I gotta figure out my setup, but we'll figure it out. Like same thing, just like today, we just gotta pivot, right? Restream kept booting us off, and we pivoted to Zoom. So let's see. Last question. And Buzz Hi there. Saw they had a cruise from Hawaii to Alaska. Looked beautiful. That passport bro Buzz Tune is there again. But yeah, everyone. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for sticking around. Technical difficulties, but hopefully, maybe self storage got you thinking about something different. But yeah, reach out if you have any questions. Go subscribe to Jack's channel, and we'll do this again. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks, Jack.